The German Shepherd protected a bear cub. Years later, everyone was stunned. The evening sky glowed with soft shades of orange and violet as the sun dipped behind the distant pines. On the edge of a quiet farming village, a German Shepherd named Rex trotted along the fence line, his ears pricked and his body alert. Loyal and intelligent, Rex had always been the farmer's most trusted companion, guarding the land, watching over the children, and warning of danger long before any human noticed. But tonight felt different. His nose twitched as he caught a scent that didn't belong. Without hesitation, Rex darted toward the forest. The farmer, wiping his hands after a long day's work, frowned as he saw his dog disappear into the trees. Curious and a little worried, he grabbed a lantern and followed. It didn't take long before he heard a faint sound, not the growl of a predator, but a soft, desperate cry. As the farmer drew closer, his lantern illuminated a heartbreaking sight: a tiny bear cub, no bigger than a small dog, huddled under a fallen branch. Its fur was dirty, its ribs faintly visible, and its wide eyes shimmered with fear. Rex approached slowly, his tail low but wagging gently. To the farmer's shock, instead of growling, the dog lay down beside the cub, pressing his warm body against it. The cub whimpered once, then buried its face into Rex's fur as if it had finally found safety. The farmer stood frozen. Every instinct told him to leave the cub. After all, its mother might be nearby, or worse, poachers. But when he saw Rex refusing to move, guarding the tiny creature with quiet determination, he realized something unusual was unfolding. That night, under the gathering shadows of the forest, an unlikely bond had just begun. Carrying the bear cub home was not part of the farmer's plan. He shook his head as he lifted the trembling animal into his arms, while Rex padded proudly at his side. "This is madness," he muttered under his breath. Bringing a wild animal into his home went against every rule he knew, but leaving it alone to die felt worse. When they reached the farmhouse, the children rushed to the doorway, their eyes widening. "Papa, is that a bear?" the youngest gasped. The farmer placed the cub gently on a blanket. "Just for tonight," he said firmly. "Tomorrow, we'll call the rangers." But Rex had other ideas. He lay down beside the cub immediately, curling his body around it like a shield. Each time one of the children reached out too quickly, Rex would glance at them protectively, as if warning, "Be gentle, this one is under my care." Through the night, the cub whimpered and shifted, searching for warmth. Every time, Rex nuzzled it closer, his steady heartbeat calming the frightened creature. By dawn, the farmer walked into the kitchen and froze. The sight before him made his chest tighten. Rex and the cub asleep, their heads touching, their breaths rising and falling in perfect rhythm. Days passed, and the temporary guest became harder to let go. The cub grew stronger, nibbling on scraps of food and stumbling across the yard on unsteady paws. Rex never left its side, guiding it away from danger, barking softly when it strayed too far. Neighbors shook their heads in disbelief when they heard the story. A bear and a dog under the same roof? "It'll end badly," they warned. But the farmer had begun to notice something extraordinary. The cub wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, because Rex had chosen to protect it as if it were his own. And deep down, the farmer wondered, perhaps this cub wasn't meant to leave after all. Weeks melted into months, and what began as a desperate act of survival transformed into something far more extraordinary. The little cub, once frail and weak, now bounded across the yard with playful energy. Its fur grew thick and glossy, and its once timid eyes now sparkled with curiosity. But wherever the cub went, Rex was never far behind. The German Shepherd had taken on the role of guardian, teacher, and older brother all at once. If the cub wandered too close to the henhouse, Rex would bark sharply, steering it away. If the cub grew too bold and tried to climb onto the porch, Rex would gently tug at its ear until it obeyed. And when the cub tumbled clumsily onto the grass, Rex would stand nearby, tail wagging, as if encouraging it to try again. The farmer's children adored the unusual pair. Every afternoon, laughter filled the farm as they watched Rex and the cub chase each other in wide circles. The sight of a loyal dog racing beside a growing bear cub seemed almost magical, a living storybook unfolding before their eyes. Word spread quickly through the village. Some came out of pure curiosity, others with worry. "It's dangerous," one neighbor whispered. "That cub will grow, and when it does, you'll regret ever letting it stay." But the farmer could see what they could not. He had watched with his own eyes as Rex taught the cub boundaries, patience, and even gentleness. When the farmer's youngest child tripped and cried in the yard, it was not only Rex who rushed to comfort him, but the cub as well, pressing its furry head into the boy's chest as if to say, "You are safe with us." At night, under the pale glow of the moon, Rex and the cub would curl up together by the barn. Sometimes the farmer would pause by the window and watch them, marveling at the bond that had formed between species so different, yet bound by something deeper than blood, trust. Still, he couldn't ignore the nagging thought in the back of his mind. Each day, the cub grew larger, stronger, more wild. How long could such a fragile balance last? By the time spring returned, the cub had nearly doubled in size. What once looked like a helpless ball of fur now resembled a true young bear, powerful shoulders, thick legs, and a playful strength that often left Rex panting after their games. The farmer watched with pride and unease. Each day he felt the same question pressing heavier on his heart: could they really keep a wild bear as part of their family? His doubts were confirmed when a pair of forest rangers visited the farm. They had heard the rumors and wanted to see for themselves. The moment they spotted the cub trotting beside Rex, their faces hardened. This is no longer safe. The bond they had all cherished seemed lost to the forest. But none of them could have guessed what destiny had in store. Years slipped by, and life on the farm returned to its quiet rhythm. The children grew taller, the fields flourished, and Rex, though still strong, began to show signs of age. His muzzle carried streaks of gray, and he spent more time resting on the porch, his eyes drifting toward the forest as if waiting for something, or someone. The cub's memory lingered in the family's hearts like a bittersweet echo. Sometimes, late at night, the farmer's youngest child would whisper, "Do you think it remembers us?" The farmer always answered gently, though with uncertainty, "The forest changes all who live in it." Then, one autumn evening, everything changed. The farmer was stacking hay when a commotion erupted at the tree line. Birds scattered, and the cattle grew restless, stamping nervously. Rex shot up, his ears high, his body tense. Despite his age, his instincts were sharp as ever. He bolted toward the forest, barking with a mix of warning and urgency. The farmer hurried after him, heart pounding. He expected a predator, maybe a wolf, or worse. But what emerged from the shadows left him frozen. A massive bear stepped into the clearing, its thick fur glistening in the fading sunlight. The ground seemed to tremble under its weight. The farmer's breath caught. Could this be the cub? It looked nothing like the fragile creature they had once sheltered. Rex barked again, but not with aggression. His tail wagged cautiously, his body lowered in recognition. The bear paused, sniffed the air, and then, unbelievably, let out a deep rumbling sound that wasn't a growl but something gentler. Slowly, it approached. The farmer's children, now older, stood at the porch in awe. Rex, trembling with age yet brimming with excitement, stepped forward. The bear lowered its great head until it was level with the dog. For a moment, silence ruled the farm. Then, to everyone's shock, the bear nuzzled Rex, the same way it had years ago as a cub. Rex let out a small whine, pressing his head against the bear's muzzle, his tail wagging furiously. Tears blurred the farmer's vision. Against all odds, the bond had survived. Neighbors soon gathered, stunned at the sight of a full-grown bear standing peacefully beside a German shepherd. Whispers of disbelief spread like wildfire. The cub remembered. The cub came back. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, the farmer realized this reunion wasn't chance, it was destiny. From that day on, the bear became an unexpected guardian of the farm. It did not linger every day, the forest was still its home, but it often returned, drawn by the bond it had never forgotten. Sometimes it would appear at dusk, watching quietly from the tree line until Rex spotted it, and the two would meet in the clearing, side by side like old friends. The farmer and his family never treated the bear as a pet. They understood it belonged to the wild. But they also knew that love had built something stronger than fences or rules. Whenever the bear returned, it was never out of hunger or need, it was out of loyalty. Rex, though slowing with age, seemed to come alive each time the bear appeared. The children, now teenagers, would watch in awe as the two played gently, their bond unshaken by the passing years. It was a reminder that some connections defy nature itself. When Rex's final day eventually came, the family buried him beneath the oak tree near the edge of the forest. That night, as the wind rustled through the leaves, the bear stood at the tree's base, silent and still, as though paying its respects to the one who had once protected it. The farmer placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "This," he whispered, "is what true loyalty looks like." The legacy of a dog and a bear, unlikely friends bound forever, would never be forgotten.